part of the
Yeah, yeah. So
where's the actual water? So
on that whole thing.
where's the safe zone training?
Is that just for students? Like, I don't know. I don't know
Reminds me here of
what that is.
it's like so when you have LCPC, where you can just run a stuff. Like a bleach, not on your resume, but.
Alright. Hi everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Aisha Corey and I'm a recruiter. So thank you very much for joining us for the first event in our series of Licensure and Certification Week events. Today we're very grateful to have with us Dan Stasi, who is the Executive Director of the Illinois Mental Health Counselor Association and knows all things licensure related to Illinois very well and has been an expert and kindly enough to join us many times in the last few years. We have a number of folks online, and then thank you for those of you who are here in person as well. The session will be recorded, and we will make it available on our website in the next week or so. If you have questions online, hopefully you can hear us okay. You can always use the chat box. We'll do our best to go ahead and answer those as we go through or at the end, if it makes the most sense. And with that, I will turn it over to Dan. Thank you very much, Dan.
Feel free to just bring up questions when they come up.
Okay, and I think Chelsea can run on that for you.
Well, I have a number of different hats. One is as the Executive Director for the Illinois Mental Health Counselor Association. Another is as the Executive Director for the Illinois School Counselor Association. And the third is I am a lobbyist on behalf of Counselors Illinois and work with a coalition of counselors. So the coalition is the thing that's primarily going to involve legislation. To the end of licensure, licensure started in Illinois about 25 years ago. And the way all licenses in Illinois work is that every 10 years they're up for renewal. And at that time they make some changes here and there, they tweak it, stuff like that. And that happened with us 2 years ago. So I gave you a number of handouts. One is one of our recent newsletters. Some good stuff in there, and I will do a shameless plug here. We're having a great speaker in March. How many have heard of Bill O'Hanlon? You guys? All right. Well, Bill O'Hanlon is an international speaker. He speaks all over the world. He is a great speaker on a number of topics, one of which is this one he's going to do on trauma. Trauma without drama is going to be the workshop. This sells out when we do this. We've had him 2 times, maybe 3 times before, and every time it's just a total sellout. We usually get a couple hundred people show up for this. We're offering a special early rate for members of $45. And the big difference this time around is that Bill has stopped speaking all over the world. He has one engagement in 2016 besides this one, and that's it. He's not likely to be touring a whole lot anymore. One of the last chances to see him in person. The other is a nice brochure about the LCPC. And, of course, our membership application. If you're not a member, I certainly encourage it. Students can join at a discounted rate. So, licensure. There is what, with every license in Illinois, there's licensure law, and then there's rules. The rules, the intention of the rules is to give the details that go with the law. The law is more of a broad base, and then the rules get into all those details. On our website, under licensure and how-to, there's a pretty good list here of what to go through. But the process is, first you got to get the degree. Okay? Darn, got to get an education. So, and it needs to be in the counseling field. I get calls all the time from people with degrees in maybe human services or nonprofit management or something else related, but it's not in counseling. Okay, so it has to be a counseling degree. There is, so that's the good news. The bad news is, besides the school you're going to, there's about 45 to 50 other universities in Illinois alone offering a degree to get you into licensure. And that's not counting social work programs. So of those 45 or so universities, there's probably about 90 different academic degree programs leading towards licensure. So there's a lot of people out there looking for that degree to end up becoming licensed. But it needs to be a clinical degree. Nobody in Illinois offers a degree anymore that's less than a 48 credit hour program. Their years are 60. Yeah, and almost all universities now are 60. This is the national trend to move towards a 60 credit hour degree. There is a few that still have maybe a 48, but no one in Illinois. I don't think anybody nationwide. Now, somebody might have graduated a long time ago. You might come across one day, and they did not have a 48-hour degree. And And so Illinois requires that degree to get towards licensure. There will be some changes. There's always changes to the licensure law. There will be some changes to the rules and the law probably in the next 2 years. Those changes will not take effect immediately. They'll be phased in over a period of time. But primarily what they'll say is one of the things is that you have to have a 60-hour degree to get licensed in Illinois. It will probably leave a route for those that have less than a 60-hour degree to get to a 60-hour degree, but it will require, as over half the states already have a 60-hour credit hour. The classes there's a certain list of classes, and that's what's in your academic program, is that list of classes. And it is fairly similar, I would say, nationwide in what classes are required, but there's probably little differences here and there. You may find that if you go to another state, you might have to take a certain class that you don't have to take in Illinois. Maybe you go to Colorado and they require a class on Colorado law. Illinois does not do one anymore on Illinois law. They do one just on laws, mental health laws. So there are differences from state to state. Some have other training requirements you have to have. Some might have a different number of clinical hours. It's pretty good that if you're coming from out of state to Illinois, you're not going to have a lot of trouble getting licensed. And going from Illinois to another state in general, but your program can probably tell you where they're having trouble. Ohio, are you having trouble in Ohio? Everybody seems to have trouble in Ohio.
Ohio is funny, yeah. And then they have other classes to take in Florida.
Yeah,
California.
Florida and other ones.
Yeah.
So there's a few states that have some difficulties. I would talk to them. I mean, they're used to students in the past going to those states, and they can probably help advise you if there's certain classes you should be looking at taking or thinking about, or requirements you need to make. But the requirements nationwide are fairly the same. There is a test required to become licensed. Again, it's fairly the same nationwide what the test is. So the first step is you get the degree. The next is that you apply for licensure. When you apply, you go through the state of Illinois, and there's a link here to the application on our website. It's the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. You're going to send them a check for $150. Hopefully that doesn't go up. As time goes on, it's been $150 for a while. And we encourage it not to go up because actually the state makes a profit off of counselor licensure. They use that profit to do other things in the state, but they make a profit off licensure. It takes a couple of months to hear back, so don't expect you're going to graduate, get the degree, send your application, and then 2 weeks later you're not going to hear. It's going to take 2 months. And it depends on the time of the year. The licensure board is the ones that have to look at your application. They meet about 10 months a year, but they don't meet every month. So there might be a lag in August, maybe, or I forget what other month, maybe December. So you're going to send in your application. There's just a backlog at the state of getting to these. Expect a couple of months to wait. When you hear back, they're going to say, yep, you're qualified to take the exam. You don't take the exam.
They do take it. They have the option.
Okay, so you have the option of taking the exam before graduation through the school, and that's a written exam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't take it through the school, the other option is to take it after you graduate, and that is a computer on a computer. It's not on your computer, it's on a computer at specific H&R Block offices. And those are offered Monday through Friday, mornings or afternoons. You just pick what day you want to go, what time slot you want to go. And you don't have to take it in Illinois. You can take it, you're from Kansas, you're going back to Kansas, you can take it in Kansas. Okay? You never have to live in Illinois or work in Illinois to get licensed in Illinois. So you can live anywhere, get your experience anywhere. You have to have the right experience. You don't even have to live in the U.S. You have to come back. I don't think they offer the test overseas, so you have to come back to the U.S. But you can get it elsewhere. Sometimes I get questions about people who are non-U.S. citizens, and it is okay to get licensed as a non-U.S. citizen. You need to have a Social Security number to put into the system, but you can get a Social Security number as a non-U.S. citizen. There's a process for Social Security to get a number. For those that are undocumented students, you can also go through a process to get licensed. You contact the department, you're going to fill out a form for them, you're going to send that in, and they're going to decide if there's a reasonable expectation of why you're undocumented, maybe you're in the process of applying, whatever. So you'll send in this form, and they'll make a decision case by case, whether or not if you're undocumented, that it's okay to go ahead and fill out the application. They then come up with something instead of a Social Security number for you because, again, you have to have this training. All right, so you will send in the application, you hear back, and then you take the test, or you've been able to take the test before you graduate. You can't apply before you graduate, but you could take the test before. So that would speed up the process a little bit in the exam portion. Sometimes people ask about criminal convictions. Okay, can I apply if I have a criminal conviction? So there are a few. There is nothing in the law that specifically states having a criminal conviction for this crime eliminates you. Okay, but in general, if it is crimes against children, sexual violent crimes, and other sorts of maybe those sort of violent crimes that are recent, probably you're not going to get licensed. Okay, if you have a DUI, it's not a problem. If you've done some other crime, drug conviction years ago, not a problem. This is not unusual, okay, in the world for people to come into this and have had a prior instance and be what we were. So the state has a process, which is kind of a joke, but they have a process that they passed a law a couple of years ago that said that you can ask for a predetermination letter from the state, but it's a non-binding predetermination letter. Well, what a waste, send in your request and say, can you tell me if maybe I could get licensed, but you could always deny me anyway, sort of letter. It's kind of silly. So, yeah, you can send it in. I've heard people don't even hear back, and I think even if you do, what terms of night, they can still change their mind. Not right. So anyway, yeah, you can get licensed if you have a past criminal conviction. You go through the process, get all your paperwork in order, send it in, answer the questions. The application can be a little tricky. Don't hesitate to call us if you have questions about the application. There are things on there that are confusing because it's kind of a one application fits all, and it may not fit you, and so that's okay. You go ahead and fill out what you can. A lot of people get confused when they're applying for the LCPC, the next level that I'll talk about, that they have to have this one document filled out about licensure. And what it's implying is licensure in another jurisdiction. Now, not that you're filling out something about being licensed as an LPC. So the first level is that you don't need any work experience to become an LPC. And once you become an LPC, okay, so after you take the test, okay, you send your application, you're back. It's going to take still about another month to get the actual license. Okay, it takes a little time for them to process your scores and stuff. You will get your scores if you do it at H&R Block. You'll get your scores right there at the location. Otherwise, you'll get it through the mail. Hang on to that so you can have it later in life, when you need to send it in for the next step. So the next part is that, and these flow charts I have here are also here on this website, okay? And they go through them here. And then if you're wondering about education, there's a link here that would list the degree programs and the classes you need. The requirements educational-wise for LPC and LCPC are the same. If you're wondering what the 13 classes are that's required in Illinois, there's a list of those. The application is linked here, and you can go there and download the application from the state's website. So the next step in the process is to become an LCPC. So an LCPC is an LPC on steroids. You've got your LPC, okay? You've got your master's degree, and now you need to get work experience. Any experience post-master's, okay? Doesn't have to be anything to do. Don't tie it anything to do with taking the exam or getting your LPC. In fact, you never have to get the LPC license to become an LCPC. You can choose. Maybe you're not in a job where you need that license. You can choose to go ahead and not get the license. You'll still take the same exams. You'll take the NCE exam and then the second exam, the IMHCA exam. But you don't have to actually apply to be an LPC prior to becoming an LCPC. It's the tests that matter in the experience. So again, you need the same degree, the same classes, okay? And then you fill out the application again to the state. You wait another couple of months. You'll hear back. And then the exam for that is called the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Exam. And let me go back. The National Counseling Exam is 200 questions, multiple choice. Covers 8 different areas: ethics, counseling theory, different things like that. The best resource I've always been told is your textbooks. Pull them out, areas and look those over. There's a lot of study guides out there. Just the feedback I've gotten is your textbooks. There are probably the last I heard from NBCC, and that's who owns the test, the National Board of Certified Counselors. And to clarify, they own the exam, okay, but you don't have to join NBCC or become an NBCC certified counselor to take the exam. There is a thing they are changing. There's a national certification called the Nationally Certified Counselor. I don't know what value that is to you personally. It doesn't let you practice in any state. At one time, it was great because there wasn't licensure in every state, but there is now. And so the NCC won't let you practice anywhere. It's 3 extra initials after your name and then more money you spend with them. They are going to make a change in a few years that in order to become an NCC, you have to have graduated from a K-accredited program. That's just though to become an NCC, not to take the exam. Okay? So you can, the states will still administer the exams that they buy from them, and you can still take those. So the NCE exam, the last I heard from them, about 70% of the people that take it pass it on the first time. Now, my opinion, I guess, anecdotal evidence, is that those that don't pass it fall into one of 3 groups. Either they have trouble with English. English is not their primary language, and they have a lot of trouble with reading. Okay? The second group is probably people that don't study at all. I know that sounds silly, but I get this all the time. They say, I thought I'd see how I did, I failed it, and I didn't study. Well, that's not work. So, and the third group are people that have been out of school a very long time. They've been out for 20 years. They worked maybe in a school system. They didn't need to be licensed, and now they're going back and they need to take the NCE. And all this stuff is long blind, as well as their textbooks are long blind. So, they're really starting over from scratch, trying to learn all this stuff again. And so they're having a lot of trouble also. People then retake it. You can retake it several times and just go, to see what if you can pass it the next time around. The process then to become an LCPC is after the application, okay, before you apply, you have to have experience. You need to have 3,360 hours of work, which is basically 2 years. Their concept is that you work for, almost full time, you take a little bit off for vacation, and you work for 2 years. So you need to have 3,360 hours of work, and that's on this one, experience qualifications to become a licensed counselor. So they count it per year. So when they do it here, it's 1,680 hours per year for 2 years, which is 3,360. And you can't get it in less than 2 years. You can get it in more than 2 years. Okay? And sometimes that confuses people. But we're saying that you can do it in 10 years. You just can't do it in a year and 9 months. Okay? Even if you work more hours in a year and 9 months. Of that, part of that has to be in face-to-face, 1,920, or 960 per year times 2. So 1,000. And so what is face-to-face counseling? Okay? It's just a simple concept. If you're with a person in person, not videos, not Skype, you're there in person. It's with a group, it's with individuals, and you're not doing looking up their records. You're not going to a workshop. You're not trying to figure out who they should go see for a referral. You're actually with them doing clinical work. There is no specific job title, so when you're looking at jobs, you're going to want to think that the job you want has something to do with counseling. Okay? And people sometimes get off on the fringes of this, where the jobs that they're finding are not counseling. They're in the related field, but they're not actually clinical work. And nothing in their job title or their job description says they're doing anything clinical. Okay? So look for that in the job title and stuff that what you're doing, is that there's some relation in there to being clinical, because you don't want to have something that's just not going to qualify at all. Just everything that falls under the sun of a nonprofit isn't going to be clinical work. So you want to see that whatever you're doing has some clinical. There's no list of this job counts and this job doesn't. Okay? It's very subjective, but look for the concept that's clinical. And then you need clinical supervision. Okay? You can do volunteer work, but you have to be an LPC for the volunteer work to count. Okay? So you can do volunteer work, you can do paid work. It has to be supervised by an LCPC, LCSW, or licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. Okay? If it's in another state, whatever is the equivalent. Like, for example, in Indiana, an LCPC is an LPC in Indiana. So whatever is that equivalent. If you're in another country, whatever the equivalent in that country is someone who's licensed to practice independently in those fields. So, yeah, you get the experience. You can do it in a small groups, the clinical experience. I think it's 4 or less. You can do it one-on-one. It does not have to be someone at your job. So you might go to work in a system or a nonprofit that has no one there. I worked for a number of nonprofits over the years. We didn't have anybody with those licenses there. We had a lot of people with bachelor's degrees, and a few with maybe masters, but we didn't have always in a small agency of 2 or 3 employees. So you can hire someone outside of where you're working. Okay, and people do this for as a business. They do it in small groups. They do it individually. You hire them. You then meet with them on a regular basis every week to provide for them to get you to that clinical supervision that you need. Once you have all of those hours of experience, you do the application again, another $150, and you take the next exam. I think the exams are about $200 each, and then you also have to send about 100 something to continental testing, which helps with processing the exam for the state. So you do all those steps. Okay. You send it in. You're going to wait another couple of months. Okay, and you're going to hear back. And then you have your LCPC. With the LCPC, you can practice independently. And what does that mean? That means that you can set up your own little shop, have your own little practice, bill insurance, and maybe hire an LPC to work for you. Okay. An LPC cannot have their own practice. Okay. The whole idea is you don't have enough experience. Okay. So they can work for someone in a practice. They can work in a nonprofit setting. They can work in a lot of places, but they can't start their own practice. If you go on to get a doctorate, they cut that down. Once you get your doctorate, you only need 1 year experience instead of 2. Okay, so you need a little less experience. Okay. If you are coming from another state, the application process is called endorsement instead of licensure. If you're licensed in another state, very similar. If you're going to another state, there's a little bit different process for getting licensed in a different state if you're already licensed in Illinois or some other state. So you go through that process of what to do. There is a residency requirement in Illinois, and that doesn't mean that you actually live in Illinois. What it has to do is that you're taking classes in person. Can you do an online degree? You can. You cannot do a totally online degree. K-Prep offers a couple of programs that are mostly online, some in person, and because they're K-Prep, they count. If they were not K-Prep, that would not count. You just do total, mostly online classes. So now a few states do allow them, but Illinois does not. You cannot have totally online. Nor can you do your clinical supervision online. That may change in a few years, but right now your clinical supervision needs to be physically in person. That's not Skype. Okay, that's not your phone. That's not texting. That you're physically in person with the supervisor. All right. Once you're licensed, you need continuing education. Okay? You get that by going to workshops by approved providers. We're an approved provider, not a place to approved provider. You'll generally see on the form for the workshop that they're an approved provider by somebody, APA, NASW, whatever. We're licensed by the state of Illinois and by MDCC. So you need 30 CEs to renew your license, whether it's an LPC or LCPC, every 2 years. All licenses will renew in March of odd years. So whenever you get licensed next, okay, the next renewal is going to be March of 2017. Okay? At that time, if you got licensed between now and March of 2017, you'd need 0 CEs the first time. So every time you renew your license for the first time, you need 0 CEs. Because they don't know if maybe it's been a month or if it's been 23 months. So they go with the concept of that, you don't need any CEs right off, but you will need them the next time around. LCPCs need something special when they renew with the need for CEs, is they have to have 18 hours in how to be a clinical supervisor. This is a once in a lifetime, so they need 18 hours in training in how to be a clinical supervisor. They get this from places like us or others. Where they learn this. Once they do it once, they do not have to do it again. It's a one-time sort of thing. There is no requirement in Illinois currently for counselors to have an ethics course. There is for psychologists, there is for social workers, and I bring that up because a lot of people get confused and they think there is one for counselors. There or is not currently on council. You would look at maybe, is there any other specific requirements? No. There's no other things under CE that you have to have C's and this or C's and that. I think there's a C requirement for a multicultural one under social workers too. So again, the only thing under counselors is the requirement to have 30 CEs, and for LCPCs they have that 18. You cannot earn all of them by home study. You can only earn half in a renewal period. So up to 30, you can earn 15 by home study. Home study is anything not physically in person. Okay? Audio programs, videos, Skype, whatever it is, are all home study. So you can earn 15 that way, and you earn the other 15 by doing the things in person. There is a lot of stuff in person around the state, some very low cost, some not. If you remember the ACA, they offer one through reading the ACA newsletter. You can see. So there's a lot of opportunities. Stop for a second to get your questions. Yep.
And they only need CE after the initial renewal, right?
The first time you renew, you need 0 Cs. Every time after that, you're going to need 30, and that's going to be every 2 years. There are always new laws coming out. A recent one, which I'd highlight, is the one on FOID. So when we changed to having firearm owners identification, you have the concealed carry. One of the things they stuck in there was about reporting mental health professionals, reporting someone who's current present danger. So the idea was that it doesn't necessarily tie to someone having a firearm or having a firearm owner's identification card or having a concealed carry, that maybe one day they would apply to have one. And if they did, the state may choose then to turn it down. It's not a mandate. But they would look at what other issues they had and decide if they would turn them down for that application. So there's a mandate on LCPCs, psychologists, and LCSWs, as well as physicians and some others, to report people. And what we call it is a clear and present danger. Now, clear and present dangers have always been around, that you have some ethical responsibilities to report people who are clear and present danger. You don't want someone to hurt themselves. You don't want someone to hurt you. Okay, so you report that. So this is now in the law under the FOID laws that says that there's a requirement to report. You report to the state police and Department of Mental Health, and you do it online. It's all done online. You put in your license number, you do this whole process through there. But you do have it's like there's a mandate also to report child abuse for LCPC. There's also a mandate to report clear and present danger. So what does clear and present danger mean? I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. And I always snicker at this, but I get people sometimes call me and they say, I'm seeing Joe Smith and he's doing this and this, and I wonder if I should report him as a clear and present danger. And I'm like, if you thought he was a clear and present danger, you wouldn't be calling me. Okay? I'd be way down the list of people you're going to call about whether somebody's a clear and present danger. You'd already report him. You'll be scared, for his life. They communicate a serious threat against a reasonably identifiable victim. Okay, so a serious threat is something that you would look at. It's not just I'm going to get everybody who's wearing a blue shirt today. Okay, is there a reasonably identifiable victim? No, you've got to have something you can identify and have something. Now these aren't subjective. You're going to make a decision, a clinical decision as a counselor, what to do. Okay, but it's spelled out pretty well there, I think. Is that person an imminent risk? I'm going to get them next year when they come back. That's not imminent. Okay. And did they do something either verbally or physically, or assault with threats or actions that you think you should report? These are the two key factors. So you would look at these couple of things, which are linked to our website, and you say, okay, yeah, this makes sense. That they fit this. I need to report them to the state. Now I wouldn't stop there. Report to the state website. If you think they're going to kill themselves today, okay, I'd be calling, the state police because you're here for life. You're not going to send them to a website and wait to see what happens. Okay, yeah, they're supposed to take action, but that's not going to help you. Yeah, you've got to do a couple of things, more than just, go to the website. You want to make sure that that person's safe, or if they've got a threat towards someone else, that person's safe. There are always new laws out. This is why I always encourage people to become members. There are several new laws in the process right now coming out in the mental health system. and we'll see, they're talking about one that's going to change the mandate for juvenile offenders, being mandated to go to adult court in certain cases and be more of a subjective decision. So, that's why you belong to an association, because the laws are going to change. The state is never going to tell you once you're licensed, oh, this law changed, but you are responsible for making sure that you follow those laws. Okay? It's not like driving down the road where yesterday it said 70 and now there's a sign that says 55, so you know that there's a change. Okay? You're probably not going to know what's changed. You need to be paying attention. The other thing your state association does is we watch out for you. There's a lot of bad stuff happening all over the country with licensure. Currently in Texas, the marriage and family therapists are licensed to provide services. And the AMA, the American Medical Association, about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that, filed suit through the licensure board saying that, you know what, the marriage and family therapist, it doesn't say they can diagnose in their law, so they can't. So we say that, you can no longer let them diagnose people under the DSM-5. You can't, so obviously then you can't go insurance. Okay? So it was thrown out in the first court. It was upheld in the second court that no, they can't diagnose. And so now the marriage and family therapists are really, wondering what to do. They're massing their, forces, trying to see what they can do in Texas. And the fear is that after they do this with marriage and family therapists, who's next? The counselors. Okay? They're going to say the same thing. You're not licensed. The law doesn't say you can diagnose. Now we're very fortunate. 2 years ago, when we changed our law, we added the word diagnosis under the definition of what a counselor can do. Now we've never had those kind of bad relationships in our state, and all they've had to do. We get along well with the psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, but not all states do. Michigan's having a similar problem. The Attorney General there ruled that because diagnosis wasn't in their law, they could not diagnose, and they're still battling in the courts as to what to do in Michigan. And this is happening in other states where there's been, a push by different groups to stop people from providing services. It may be sued from providing substance abuse services because they're not licensed for that as a counselor. It may be providing marriage and family therapists because they're not licensed as marriage and family therapists. There's frequently attacks on the profession. And that's why your association's out there to keep an eye on it. So, yeah, we're vigilant in Illinois. We've got the word diagnosis. Social workers do not in Illinois have the word diagnosis, and neither do psychologists. So we're real proud of that we've got that in other zones. And we keep after that to see what other laws, that we need to change or do something about. Because there's always concern that, the profession in Indiana a few years ago, there was a big attack by the psychologists to say that counselors cannot do any testing. And they made a list of like 200 different tests. I mean, they can't do this test, they can't do that test. Okay, we don't have, again, that issue in Illinois. If the testing body that sells you the test looks at your qualifications and says you're qualified, that's the gatekeeper. You cannot do tests that are psychological tests, quote, that's the term, and that's in the title. But that doesn't mean you can't do MMPIs or other sorts of tests. But that was a push in Indiana a few years ago to stop everybody from doing tests. So, and you've got to be aware of what's going on. Laws are going to change. And as I said, there's going to be some changes in the licensure law in the next couple of years, primarily aimed at making the 60 credit hour requirement, but there will be other tweaks to it probably too in different sections. And we'll keep everybody informed through our membership database.
I have a question online, or more of a question comment. I'll read it word for word. Sure, if we have an MA in clinical psychology and are getting a PhD in a non-licensure psychology program down the road, can we obtain supervised hours in order to take the licensure exam? And then the other part of it is my psych program at Pepperdine didn't include practicum. I'm interested solely in consulting globally, so I'm in an international psych PhD program. But if I work with primary care teams, I think licensure would be beneficial, hence the question. Thank you.
So the program that's not a clinical program without the internship is not going to get you licensed. Okay, so they need to be in something that's clinical with the clinical internship to get licensed. But it sounds like they're in this program, so they're going to qualify for licensure, right? They're not.
It's a PhD international psychology. It's not clinical at the PhD level.
Okay.
I think the question is, and I don't know if you can answer this Illinois, but if you have a clinical psychology master's that meets all of the hours but didn't include practicum, can they do practicum hours post-master's
Counsel.
as a counselor?
Okay. It sounds like it's not a clinical degree, so my opinion would be no. You have to first, you can't make up hours to get to a clinical degree, but you can if you have a clinical degree. So, but I would still suggest to them that they apply to the state and see if what happens is that they're deficient in internship. I don't know that there's a school that would allow them to do an internship. I've never heard that, but they'll allow them to tweak maybe statistics, but I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've run into this sometimes in other states where the hours are higher for internship, where they've been able to take an extra class
Okay.
to gather that up. I think the question here is, he did finish a master's in clinical psychology, but for whatever reason it didn't include.
There are a few out there that do not include internships, or the students choose not to take an internship.
Yeah, but the PhD is totally not clinical. Yeah. Okay.
So
All right. That doesn't count. Okay.
But as far as the not having the internship, I would suggest apply to the state, see if they reject you and say you need X, Y, Z class. There's no, I can't look at it. There's no, a lot of people ask this, can somebody look at my classes? And no, nobody can look at your classes. Your best bet is to send in your application to the state and find out what happens.
I think it's spend a minute on that. I think one of the things that, or 30 seconds, that some people get confused about too, is this notion of sometimes in states you get denied, or you get sort of this notion that's like a deficiency, but that's not necessarily always the end of the road if they have an appeal process or they can provide additional information. There's a lot of confusion sometimes around that too.
I'll give the best example is Ohio, and I hear this from just a couple different universities in Illinois, where they apply for licensure in Ohio, and they're told that some class does not meet the requirements, and so they're denied. And frequently what it is in Ohio, it's a class that doesn't have, that is a psychology class, okay? Because Ohio is very big on them being counseling classes. And so what's happened in several universities is they change names and description of their classes. But so they'll get denied because it's a psychology class. And that's the name of the class, and that's what the class is all about, is psychology. Okay? And so what happens is they say that you can't use that class. And they're not saying you can't get licensed forever. They're saying that class is not going to be one of the classes that will meet the requirements. You could then, take a class. Okay. There are a number of universities in Illinois that offer you to take a class, and there's a couple online. The requirement in Illinois is that it be graduate level and be 3 semester hours. And my guess is that's a requirement in any state that there be a graduate level class. But yeah, and then I would look to see, what classes, maybe, and make sure the description of that class. That it's going to meet the state that you're going. Florida probably is very similar in the psychology versus counseling concept. This is a national movement. There's a lot of fuss across the nation with people getting licensed with a psychology degree versus a counseling degree. Illinois is very broad. We let people with our therapy degrees, dance therapy degrees, pastoral counseling degrees, as long as they've taken the required 13 classes that Illinois requires. Whether it's a counseling degree in our therapy doesn't matter to us as much as they've taken the right classes. Okay? They take a number of classes beyond that in the art field or the dance field or pastoral field, but that's not an issue for Illinois. The point is that they've taken the right 13 classes. Now, other states are not as flexible as that. They may not allow an art therapy.
Well, I have a question. Students have been asking about when they're applying, and it has to do with us not being KCREP, in submitting the syllabus. So should they submit just a cover letter of an official syllabus with our school name on it, or can they copy and paste the course description from our website and put it in the Word doc and submit that? What would you feel is the most efficient way for them to send that in the application process?
Well, you're right. So there's two things for education. One is that you're either a KCREP or a forward rehabilitation. But people get confused. They think, well, they have to be. No, they don't have to be. In fact, most universities in Illinois are not KCREP. Most universities and most people across the nation are not from a KCREP school. And I'm not anti-KCREP. I'm just saying that's not the only option out there. So for Illinois, the other option is if you're not KCREP, you have to show that you've taken the right classes. Okay. My opinion, and I heard one other university does it, is I would have the university put together a packet that every student could just grab and take and send in. Okay? That if what they took was, you know, the class on clinical whatever, okay, that here's the syllabus and here's the description, okay, and that's on this shelf here. And you took this class, that's on this shelf here. You put them all together, you're done. That's your packet. I just kind of pre-prepare all of that, you know, and have it, you know, just as a packet that you can send in. It saves a lot of time. I suggest people to do a chart, okay, you know, and say, you know, here's my 13 classes. Class 1 is this one, and it counts for this requirement. Class 2 is this one, and counts for that. Because they can get confused sometimes in the state. They don't see the tie between whatever classes you listed. Because titles change. Each university has a lot of different titles. And the universities change the titles of their own classes over time. I just mentioned if you're looking at loan forgiveness, there is loan forgiveness through the U.S. Department of Education for student loans. If you go to their website, U.S. Department of Education, you have to work in a nonprofit for, I think, 10 years, make payments for 10 years, and then there's loan forgiveness after that for student loans. So that's all we know. If you're ever looking to work in a school system, okay, that is possible with your degree. You would then go to a university that offers the 2 or 3 classes that you'll need in education, one in special education, one in classroom management, and I forget the third one. But that, and then you do an internship in a school system, and then you would qualify for a job in a public school as a school counselor. And we have a lot of people do that for us. I'm not sure that there's any better job market there than there is in mental health, but everyone's trying to watch. And when you're looking for jobs, I always suggest to people, cast a wide net. I don't mean send out 500 resumes every week. Target your resume to where you're looking. You know, your resume should look different for almost every job. Your cover letter should look different for almost every job. Okay? Because there's differences that they're looking for, and you need to key in on those. But don't be afraid to apply to, you know, a western suburb just because you've never been in the western suburbs. Okay? Send your application to places, you know, that have openings for the kind of jobs you're looking for. Don't be afraid to apply to California or North Carolina. Illinois isn't the only state with jobs, and it certainly is the best state with jobs for mental health. So, you know, look around at where else you could go. There are a lot of other opportunities out there. And don't neglect the idea that there are small agencies, okay? I've worked for large programs with, we've had 35, you know, mental health master's level counselors working there, and I've worked for places that had 1 or 2. Okay? There's a number of very small agencies, youth service programs, senior programs, and others that employ maybe only 1 or 2 people in mental health. So don't discount the idea that there's jobs out there doing that too. A lot of people just think big agencies, like Catholic Charities and stuff. There's a lot of small ones. Quick question?
As a reminder, folks will be sort of newly licensed, that all licenses expire in the odd year. Sometimes we don't necessarily always get prompted, but that there should be this knowledge.
Well, I'll tell you the best story is I was speaking at another university, I won't name here in Illinois, in Chicago, around the 2nd week of April. All licenses expired at the end of March in odd years. So licenses just expired March 31st of 2015. If you don't get your stuff in, what they'll do is if they have your right email, okay, they're going to send you a notice. You can do it online. You can do it by phone with a credit card. And I think you can mail it in. I'm not sure. But you do it that way. You have to do it by 4 March. And you have to prove, you have to show that you have the CEs. You send in the CEs? No. You keep them. If they ask for them in an audit, then you send them in. But you mark a box that you complete the continuing education.
If you need them.
If you need them. So the first time you need them. Okay, the next time you'll need 30, you still won't send the certificates in. You hold on. Okay. So I'm speaking at this university, and I'm explaining how, you know, 2 weeks ago licenses were due for renewal, and one of the staff there said, "You mean this much?" I said, "Yeah." They were just, I didn't get a notice. No, they just all renewed. Left the room like a flash. Half hour later, came back. I didn't know. My license. The next day, he was driving to Springfield to be sure he had it in his hand because he was seeing clients. he hasn't renewed his license. Just by neglect, he just didn't come. Okay. So yeah, they can miss you. You can go to scam by accident. That doesn't usually happen, but you change email and you don't get it. So be looking for it in March. You can usually start renewing like mid-January, as I recall, long before, long ahead of time. But you have to have the C's by mid-January. But for most people, that's not happening.
And sometimes folks transition from LPC to LCPC. Any suggestions there in terms of, if they're really close by a couple months not to let the LPC lapse?
Yeah, because if you need your license, okay, then you need better be sure and get in there and renew. Okay. Once you renew, okay, once you get your, I'll say it's the licenses are due in March of 2017, and you've got your LPC, and you're hoping to finish the test and be done and become an LCPC before March, in which case you start all over again. Okay. But maybe your application doesn't get shifted through as quick as you had. And lo and behold, it's April 1st before you can go take the exam. Okay, now your license is expired. Okay, so you don't want that to happen. If you're close, I would go ahead and do the renewal. It's $60, so it must be $120 every 2 years to renew. Hopefully that doesn't go up. But it's a cheap price to pay to make sure that your license is still valid. Some jobs could suspend you. Some insurance could stop paying you. You don't want to take the chance.
And a really popular question is, as an LPC, individuals have to be an employee, part-time or full-time, or maybe a volunteer, but can't be an independent contractor?
They cannot bill on their own, okay? They cannot collect fees. They cannot have their own practice. At the practice, if they're at a practice working for someone else, they need to let clients know that they are an LPC working for Bob Smith's counseling practice. Okay? It can't be their own practice. The idea, again, is you don't have experience. The best way to do it as an employee. And there's a number of practices out there that hire LPCs.
The other thing is, recently I've had folks tell me that before they receive their license in the mail, the website has been updated with their license information. At least they know it's coming.
Yep.
That seems like a great new enhancement.
Well, it was always, if you go to IDFPR, and you can go here, I think, to professionals, and, I don't know, division financial. You can look up your own license, okay? So you can look it up here, and sometimes, yeah, that'll appear there before they get it out in the mail. Remember, it takes them a long time to get stuff. It's not unusual for a slow process. Speaking of the number of licenses, there is over 6,500, I think, LCPCs in Illinois. I think about 2,800 LPCs. There are more LCPCs than there are psychologists in Illinois by a far. We surpassed psychologists probably 6-7 years ago, and their license is staying very stable. We're not going to be to the level of social workers. They're several thousand beyond us. But it is the fastest growing license in Illinois, both LPCs and LCPCs, and continues to be the fastest growing license in Illinois. So, the numbers are huge, the number of LCPCs, from a license that didn't exist, 25 years ago. I have parting gifts for two of you. Okay.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yep. Okay.
I had a question about membership.
Okay.
So obviously there are different organizations as new graduates that we can join, or even as students. ACA, I mean, I know that's national.
ACA, IMHCA, APA.
Right. You made a case for belonging to a state organization, but I'm wondering what the difference is between being a member of ICA only and then ICA and IMHCA, that kind of thing.
So in order to, ICA is the statewide group. In order to join any of the divisions under ICA in Illinois, you have to be a member of ICA. So in order to join the Mental Health Council division, you have to belong to ICA. So it's kind of a joint. Okay. So for students, it's $62.50. That's not right. I think so. $62.50 for students to join ICA/IMHCA. We don't offer you insurance, okay, but we have found that because this is one of the pluses maybe of ACA and stuff for student members. But I think if you look at the price of ACA and look at the price of the $62.50 for us, then check with CPH Insurance, which is on our website, cph.ins.com. They sell insurance very cheaply to students. It's so cheap that you're actually financially better off joining us, buying insurance from them, than it is joining ACA. I'm not saying anything about ACA. You feel it's important to join them. But we're the ones looking out for you in the state of Illinois. Okay, no one else is doing that. We're the ones looking out for you with state legislation and what's going on. We also work with ACA on various national issues. But we're the ones, that are looking out for you. Whose birthday is the closest to mine? November 24th. What is it?
September 8th.
Okay.
October 28th.
September and October? I think that's it. That's for you. You feel this afternoon?
Thank you.
Don't point it at yourself, but put your eye out.
Ooh, a pointer.
Anyway, other questions?
Other questions on Nitro? For joining, can we do it online?
You can do it online.